Hello and welcome to another episode of the Investor Financing Podcast. And we are we're bringing a new guest on the show, which is going to be an amazing conversation. Before we went live, we were talking about going bigger, going from the mindset of doing these duplexes, which currently I'm buying duplexes, to stepping up your game and why you should step up your game into large multifamily units. The scale of the bigger properties, how you can leverage that, and it actually might even get easier buying larger properties. So I'm excited to welcome Ellis Hammond to the show. Through his vision and leadership, Ellis has led Symphony Capital Group through the acquisition of more than $87 million of commercial multifamily real estate in 2021. He is also the founder of Kingdom REI, a mastermind and coaching community for faith-driven real estate investors who want to multiply their real estate portfolio income and impact through joint ventures and collaborations. What I find very interesting is Ellis was a full-time college pastor. So I'd like to kind of get the background on how you got started. And obviously you're very faith-driven. So talk about that and how that applies to real estate investing and how you made the transition in college as a pastor to start buying real estate. It's amazing.
Yeah, Beau, so great to be here, man. Seriously, thank you for sharing your platform with me and being on. It's a real honor. So grateful and love the opportunity, man, to speak to an audience of either aspiring or experienced investors who want to do more with their life, because I mean, that was what I wanted, right? I was a pastor, I was a missionary, I was serving on the college campus here in San Diego for a long time, for several years. And that's because what I thought like the best way for me to serve God, to help others, was be in ministry. And that's what I love to do. And that's why I decided to go down that route. But about 4 years into that, one of the guys that was on my team, we had actually hired him. He was a student there on the college campus for several years, and then came on and to be on our staff and kind of be part of what we were building there. And our model, just so you know, was that we raised funds. I mean, same way we do for apartment buildings, right? We would raise funds to support our ministry. And I remember about 4 years in, this young man came to me, and he was raising funds as well. And I just remember the look on his face, man, when he said, "Ellis, I don't have enough money this month to buy groceries." And that was an incredible turning point for me in my life and my mindset and even my belief about a lot of things. Because up to that point, I would probably have said, money's not important, right? Or maybe even money is evil, not because of that, the reason I thought that is because of what I'd seen money do to my family and my life, etc. And in that moment, man, I just realized, like, if this dude needs money to be able to serve and be a part of the mission and be a part of what we're doing, money must not be that bad, because here's a guy trying to really live his life for a great purpose and needs money to be able to do it. And I wasn't in a position to be able to help him because I didn't have money. And I honestly didn't even know how to go create money. And so I share that story to tell you that's why we got into real estate, because real estate for me became that vehicle. And I think it's a great vehicle for anyone who's looking to start, build, multiply wealth. It's not the end game. It can be an end game, but it's also a great starting point for those who want to begin to create and build wealth. And that was our story, man. It became that vehicle for us, and we can kind of go through that. But our first deal was a duplex, and learned a lot there. And now we buy out large apartment buildings, and hopefully we can talk about why we made that transition. But overall, man, we were just looking for I'm just looking for a way to, how do we live our life to the fullest and really create and have the most impact on the few short years we get here. And I think real estate's a great vehicle to do that.
I love what you just said. I think deep down, like, the way I feel is that I can have a lot more impact in life, in other people's life, but it's about time freedom. The more time I can free up for myself so I can give back in ways, right? And how do I do that? By creating financial independence. So I think that's a very strong point, that you can actually give a lot back more by having more time freedom, which allows you to contribute to people in a lot greater way. So I love the fact that you had the kind of mindset shift into, like, hey, it's not a bad thing to want to be successful and to create wealth and help people create wealth. And that's essentially what you do in real estate, because you partner with people. Some people are they're passive and they put money in the deal, and so it really helps the world go round. And that's an awesome story. And so this real estate investing journey, how long ago did it start for you? It wasn't too long ago, was it?
Yeah, we bought that duplex in 20, I guess beginning of 2018. I remember, man, so I'll kind of tell you the origin story, right? That moment happened, and I was like, okay, my eyes were open. Like, okay, I'm looking now for opportunity. Again, I had no idea how to build wealth, man. Like, real estate wasn't on the radar. No idea. I was a pastor, okay? No one taught me that, like, oh, now you need money. What do you do? So my eyes were open, and I think that's why faith is important, man. Like, if you're seeking for answers, they will be provided, right? And so I was seeking for answers, and I remember I got a radio ad, and it said, if you want to learn how to become a millionaire through real estate, come to this workshop. And it was one of those kind of flicks and flip type workshops, but it gave me context, man, for like, okay, I'm seeing people who don't come from large amounts of wealth, who don't have a lot of education around this topic, making millions through real estate. And it just gave me like a real seed of like, oh, I can do that. Because like if and this is why I come on your show. It's why I put out all the content that I do, because I didn't have models, man, up to that point in my life around faith-driven folks who were creating and building wealth. All the faith-driven folks that I had saw were in ministry, right? Like all the people who were open and honest about their faith, which is a value of mine, went into ministry. There were very few people who were like, hey, I love Jesus and I'm an entrepreneur and making lots of money and doing good with that money. So it's like I didn't, you know what I mean? I never had context for that. That's why I'm open about my faith and open about, creating and building wealth, is because unless you see it being done, it's really hard to kind of vision it. And so, yeah, that workshop was huge for me, man. And so it was about 4 months of just cranking every podcast, YouTube video, book I could read to figure out how do we get this thing done. And so our first deal was a duplex, because that's where most people would tell you where to start. It's not where I would tell you to start anymore, but it's where most people would tell you to start. And we did do very well. I mean, we made more money in lease and equity in that deal in the first year than we had probably made in 3 years of ministry, right? So we created just about over $100,000 of equity in that project, and that was like, okay, this is the vehicle.
And so after that duplex, did you just go into a larger multifamily at that point? You said, hey, we did it, we succeeded, we understand the process a little bit better. Now let's go bigger, because we can create more impact that way. How did that start?
I mean, well, I would say this: we were doing the duplex, and here's what I realized doing the duplex, man, is that there's not enough meat on the bone to bring in partners, right? So typically, the smaller the deal, man, I would just say the margin is lower, right? And so I just found myself doing everything. I mean, I was the landscaper. I was the guy, getting the floors ready for the floor guy to come in and do that for the next day. And by the way, I was still in full-time ministry. Like, I still had my full-time job. And I think that's why most people are kind of scared to get into real estate, is because they don't want another full-time job. Yes, it's a great wealth builder, but man, I don't have another 40 hours a week or 10 hours a week for that matter. And neither did I. That's why I was there at 10 o'clock at night doing all of this. And so I think I just learned early, like, this is not scalable. I'm not handy. Like, I remember when I had these college kids come over to help me tear it down. And one of the guys, there was like this beam that we were trying to get. I'm like, let's take that down, because we need to get rid of that. Next thing you know, man, like he's trying to pull this beam down, and the roof is looking like a upside down triangle. I'm like, okay, stop. Like, we're about to, that looks like a supporting beam. So I truly had no idea what I was doing. And that's when I learned of like, there's got to be a better way, and again, looking for it. I know real estate's a vehicle, but there's got to be a better way. And honestly, someone called me out of the blue and said, hey, do you know that you can actually bring in other people's money and be a part of bigger projects through something called a syndication model? And my first question was like, is that legal? Like, honestly, is that legal? And so 9 months later, man, we found ourselves a part of a partnership, and we had put together a partnership with a couple other guys. And we brought in some equity, and kind of were leveraging the experience of somebody else to go and raise money for this apartment building. And so it was 9 months later, dude, after that we had closed on our first 144 unit apartment building. And that was when the real light went off of like, okay, this is how you buy real estate. It's not two at a time. It's 144, 200 at a time. And honestly, I spent less work, man, buying 144 units than I did 2 units. And I think that's the real secret in this business.
So would you say your kind of biggest skill set now is the ability to help like the passive investors that want to
Yeah.
get into the deal? Is that where you spend your most time now? Because
Yeah. So we have a company, Symphony Capital Group, of course. We're a multifamily investment firm. Yeah, we raise equity from investors, and we're going out and finding the deals, putting the deals together, managing, operating those assets. Kingdom REI is our mastermind kind of coaching platform for faith-based folks who want to learn this business or are already in this business and want to joint venture and collaborate on deals. Because in my experience, the only way these deals get done, especially like if you're new or young or maybe don't have a big track record, is you have to borrow credibility. And I'll be honest, I'm still in that stage, right? Like right now, literally right now, we're submitting our best and final offer on a $36 million purchase in Dallas, Texas, 168 unit deal. We're still having to borrow credibility to like show the seller, hey, we can close on this deal, right? I mean, there's no way a firm as young as ours can come in there and say, hey, like, we're going to do this. They're going to be like, well, who are you? And I think that's the biggest hurdle, man, for most people is you have to have relationships that you can rely on in order to break into this. And I think that's the maybe thing people don't tell you. And I'm really open and honest about that is like, listen, man, we're still borrowing credibility because that's what you have to do to get into this game. You have to borrow credibility from others early on in order to kind of build up your track record so that eventually people will take you seriously. And, the only way to do that, man, is to be in the context of good relationships. And so, yeah, I mean, we've kind of built a mastermind around our business for us and for others. And so, yeah, we're raising money, we're doing deals, and, feel like if we can focus on kind of building a community around that as well, we can be more successful. So that's a little bit about what kind of both of our companies do.
So your skill sets as a pastor, how did that correlate to getting into real estate? Because I know it's completely different, but I have a feeling you were kind of mentioning that you were doing fundraising, different things. So you were developing skills that correlated 100%. To real estate. And how did you transition as a pastor to like now, like, did you have any like limiting beliefs like, oh, I'm now approaching, people that have come to me for other reasons and we're now doing real estate deals, like the mindset shift, because you're focused, you're faith driven, and now probably some of those same people now you're talking about real estate to. Did you have to kind of overcome some doubts and things to do that, or are you just one of those people that just like set your mindset and you just go?
Oh my gosh, no, man. I mean, even though, in some ways, yes, but no, there's mindsets for sure you have to overcome. I mean, absolutely. I do think though, the most important skill, like we have a little girl now, she's 9 months old and love her to death. But the one skill, man, I hope she really learns from me and I want to make sure she learns, and I don't know what I got to put her through to make sure she learns this, is the skill of communication. Right. Like, and I think that has transferred, and it's probably why it's why I think I found success in kind of both of these avenues, because communicating effectively makes you a very powerful person, entrepreneur, right? Like if you can't communicate your vision, communicate your offer, show the need, right? Show the value of what you're bringing somebody, you have no shot. And on the other flip side, if you're very good at that, honestly, your track record, your experience, in my experience, has very little to do with your success, right? I mean, dude, I don't have a real estate education. I didn't go get a real estate master's. I had never bought large apartment deals until we started buying them, right? And raising money for them. And so, but I've always been able to communicate a vision effectively and help people get on board with that vision and see the value that we can bring to them. And that was key. But yeah, man, I mean, absolutely. I think the thing that I had to overcome, the same thing when I was a pastor, is kind of had to redo it when I was became a real estate investor, is, most people when they're raising funds are thinking like, well, I don't want to have to beg for money. It's why I think a lot of people don't ask for other people's money. I don't want to have to go ask other people for money. That maybe puts me in a position of need. And the thing that I learned, man, as a pastor was, part of being a man of faith is I want to share my faith with others. And I think a lot of the times that people have in sharing the hurdle that people have in sharing their faith is that I don't want to come off as pushy, or I don't want to. It's almost as if the person who doesn't have faith is the person of value, and the person who has faith is like, I need you to come and be a person of faith. When it's the opposite. I have something of value, or at least that I've found value in, and I want to share that with you. That was the same mindset, man, that I had to take into real estate when I'm asking people and raising people for money. Is I have something of value. I have a wealth building opportunity that you are not getting access to, because no financial advisor in the country can share this with you, because they don't get paid to share private placement offerings. They're not insured to share with you placement offerings, right? Private placement offerings. You're seeing 30% of what's available to you by just working with a financial advisor, right? Like the majority of those who are worth 10, 50, $100 million are invested in private placement deals, businesses, entrepreneur endeavors. Most people in America are not invested in any of that, right? And so once I begin to learn that, no, I actually have something of value and can help people build and create wealth much faster than they would on their own, I'm like, why would I not tell everybody about this? And I think it's that mindset I had to overcome, man. It's funny how that translated so closely to being a pastor and sharing my faith. Was I had to kind of overcome that hurdle again in real estate. And I do think that's a big hurdle that holds most people back from raising capital and doing bigger deals, is because, well, I don't want to go ask for money, or I don't know how to go ask for money. And like, the hardest thing you got to overcome is the fact that you are a person or have something of value that others want to trade money for. And when you figure that out, you can become very powerful.
I love it. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. That's great. How did you end up becoming a pastor? Was it something your parents were very religious, or something in your life that, usually like, I see, and I'm just always interested, and that's why I'm asking, was it your family was very religious and that kind of sparked it, or was there something in your life that happened where you transitioned and said, I need to go a different route with myself, and that's how you kind of got into being a pastor?
Yeah, so no one's ever asked me that question live, man, actually.
Sorry.
Everyone's always asked me why I became a real estate investor. No one's ever asked me why I became a pastor. No, dude. Like, my parents weren't in real estate and my parents weren't religious. Like, no, absolutely not. I think in both scenarios, it was the better route. Like, I just saw something that I wanted and wanted more of in my life. And for me, that was faith in college. I had very little faith coming into college, and I began to see what life looked like by those around me who had a strong faith in God, and what that really looked like to really be in a relationship with the God of the universe, and how that was that just brought joy to their lives. And it wasn't about religion. It was just like, man, I'm seeing something that I don't have, and I want to be a part of it. And so I never said, oh, I should become a pastor. I just began to go down this road of learning more about who God is, who Jesus is. That had a massive impact on my life, and I wanted to share that with others. And so, I joined a college ministry, and then just kind of went on the next step of going on staff with that ministry, so that I could help others like me, who I knew weren't getting the right information about faith, right? Because I grew up in the South. It's not like I didn't hear about God and Jesus. I heard about it a lot, but no one ever communicated it the right way for me to be like, hey, I want that. And so I became a pastor to help, those young, crazy, wild bucks like me realize, hey, man, true life is not found in spending your life, chasing success and girls and money and whatnot. It really comes in knowing God. And so I became a pastor to help people realize that. Interesting enough, same reason I got into real estate, because I'm like, this is a great vehicle, man. Nobody's really talking about it enough. I know if we can go find great deals and put that together, people will want to be a part of this. And so, I guess in some ways it's always kind of been the entrepreneur in me that I didn't realize until recently, but that's how.
You're listening to the Investor Financing Podcast. We'll be right back after this break.
Hello, Beau Eckstein here, host of the Investor Financing Podcast. Are you a lender, real estate professional, or vendor that provides products or services within the real estate investing and business owner space? We are offering a few sponsorship opportunities to get in front of a highly targeted audience. If you're interested, please click the link below for further information. We look forward to talking with you. Thanks. Make it a great day. So when you say faith-driven, it's really not it's a belief in God. Is it specific to a religion, or like, let's say you're Christian, Catholic, Jewish? I mean, there's a lot of different religions, right? And so how do you, as a pastor, were you speaking to certain religions, or was it anybody who wanted? I mean, how does that actually
great question.
work?
Yeah.
Because just a background, both my parents are Jewish. I was never bar mitzvahed. I wasn't raised religious. And as I got older in life, I'm 44 now. I would say I'm interested in religions and learning about different religions, and but I wasn't raised very strict religiously. I do believe in a higher power, and I believe in, faith and things like that, but I wasn't religious. So I'm curious, just like from a pastor's perspective, and we're getting off the topic of real estate.
I love it, man. Listen, we never have to talk about real estate. My faith is tied to the Christian faith in Jesus. And I began to read the Bible in college, and the gospel stories, which, by the way, is Jesus was a Jew, right? So it's very much tied to that in the Old Testament. But what I just began to find was this made sense. And this was, Jesus was the kind of the Messiah, or the fulfillment of what the Old Testament had been talking about for forever. And so that made sense to me. And so, yes, my faith is tied to my relationship with Jesus. And, but it's interesting, man, like on the college campus, especially in these days, I find that a lot of people want to be spiritual, but they don't really want to tie it to anything. And I think, man, that can be really misleading too, right? And we're really getting off topic now, but I love it, because I think if you want to be spirit filled, or you want to be spiritual, or connect yourself to something higher, but it's not tied to anything, then really you're just kind of tying it back to yourself. And I think that was where I saw a lot of college students kind of get off track, or never really find anything deep, because they were just trying to kind of create something on their own. And I don't think we're very good at being God. At least I'm not. And so you'd be amazed, man, the conversations I would have on the college camp. I mean, it was some of my favorite years, right? Because I really got to wrestle with people, wrestle in a good way, right? Really help them kind of formulate these beliefs and these wrestlings. Because I think, like you, man, a lot of people are kind of searching and seeking more, and it's interesting all the places that we'll go look for that. And I believe that that's why I am a Christian, because I believe that this is the way. But again, there's a lot to learn too. I definitely think I'm an open-minded man. I didn't come from a religious background. This is just what I found value in, and I want to share that with others.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That was good. And we got off subject of real estate, but sometimes it's good to get some of the backstory,
100%.
On how people, their thought process, how they create things and going forward. And I think it's, at the end of the day, it's good to have an open mind about, I learn something new every day. I ask questions to people all the time, because I don't know, right? I remember I work with a Mormon guy, and I was just asking him questions because I was curious. I want to know. And I don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And so anyways,
and I think, Beau, I appreciate that, man. I love your show, because that has been the key to everything. me growing in our success. You want to know how have we grown this fast? Is because I'm just open. Like, I'm okay to ask the questions, man. I mean, even my podcast show, and this is, I started a podcast show called Kingdom REI when we got started in this business. And the reason I started that show is because I wanted to put myself in the seat of the person who doesn't know anything and asking the people who do. And that humility has been the X factor, right? In everything, dude. Is just like, I think so many people are just scared to show that humility of like, hey, I just don't know things, or I'm open to those things. And so having that humility, being open-minded, I'm constantly seeking for that. And I'm okay to be in the guy in the room to say, hey, what does that mean? Or, you know what I mean? Like, what does that term mean or whatever? Because I just don't know. And the more I begin to learn, man, the faster we begin to accelerate. So people ask me all the time, Ellis, what's your 10-year goal? I'm like, I'm going to tell you why I don't answer that question. Is because every 6 months I learn something new that literally transforms our company, right? Like what type of deals we're buying, where to go get money from. So it's almost hard for me to even project 3 years out, because I'm like, I'm learning things so much so fast that I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like the even goals we set back in December, it's February 14th now, have accelerated and changed because of what we've learned or the people that we've met. And so how can I predict 10 years out, man? Like that would be like the who I am today will be completely different who I am 5 years from now. And that person 5 years from now is going to be much more dangerous than the guy you're talking to today. And so, that question can be really tough for me.
I absolutely love that, because it comes down to like the growth mindset that it's okay not to know, but you should always be seeking that enlightenment in business and life and whatever. Because I agree 100%. When I was growing up as a child, I had a learning disability. I never really liked school. I never was interested in school. I tried to go to a junior college after I graduated, and I decided not to go to school and get into real estate. And then what's funny, and I always tell people this, once I started learning about real estate investing, I studied so hard. I love it. Before bed, I'm watching something every night to get better. And it's like, I always tell people, the college degree didn't make the difference for me. It was once I found what I really was passionate about and to learn about it. I love learning about self-directed IRAs, real estate syndications, how to finance these properties, how to structure your entities. You can never stop learning. I love what you're talking about, how, I don't know, 10 years from now, I don't know, because I'm going to learn a lot over the next 6 months. We could change my trajectory, or the market might change. I might change my focus because of that. So I think that's
100%.
That's people that are listening to this or watching this, there's a lot of nuggets, even though, like, if you really hear the nuggets, like, communication is the number one skill set, right? To be able to communicate to a potential investor, or communicate to a motivated seller why they should take your offer. I mean, we've even though we haven't per se maybe talked about real estate specifics, the nuggets in this interview right now, if you're really listening, are the gold nuggets that why people can go from a duplex to buying 130, 40 units. Right. Like,
real estate's the vehicle, man. I saw people all this. Like, the real estate is the least important part about this conversation. Like, it is the least important thing about how to become successful. It is. Like, real estate is a vehicle. The reason I know that is because I have a lot of friends who've become ultra successful in other vehicles. But the mindset, the principles, right, how they live their lives, there's threads in that. And so, yeah, man, you're so spot on with that. Real estate is just a vehicle. And I would say that people maybe who are aspiring or want to get into this, to not get so caught up on I love you don't have to love real estate, man. Tie your vision, tie what you want in life to that vehicle, and I guarantee you'll get more passionate about it. I don't love underwriting. I hate looking at freaking spreadsheets, but I'm on these, I have these spreadsheets pulled up. I'm on the calls with my underwriting team so that I can learn and build that skill and that craft, because that freaking spreadsheet's tied to the goals I have in life, right? And I need to understand how these numbers work, or I never get to retire my mom. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it's tied to, I want freedom, and I want freedom for my family. I want freedom for my wife. I want freedom. You know what I mean? So tying that vehicle to something much bigger, forget if you're passionate about it or not, man. Like, tie it to what you want, and you'll become a lot more passionate about it. I've become a lot more passionate about things I do not enjoy because I see that it's tied to what we want.
Yeah, I arrange financing for a living, and I like the industry, but at this point in my life, I've been doing it for a long enough time where now I have other passions where so what do I need to do? I need to create reoccurring revenue, right? Yeah. So I'm financially independent, which makes my time, maybe I like to do podcasting and I just want to interview people all day long, right? And so it really just frees you up. And all this is a vehicle, whether you love real estate or you don't love real estate. And it's amazing that you kind of brought those points up because it's so true. Yeah. It's like you could do anything. It's just a vehicle and a mindset shift. And what are the outcomes you want from this? And what's the vision? Like, forget, I want to own, 5,000 units or whatever it is, or whatever your reoccurring revenue number is monthly. That's really the end goal for people.
Yeah. The only thing I would add to that, I want people to hear me really clear.
Sure.
The vehicle is important. And what I mean by that is it doesn't matter and it's extremely important. And here's what I mean. There's a lot of different vehicles, man, that can make you wealthy if that's your goal. Like, let's say the goal is wealth, big wealth. Okay, lots of vehicles that can make you wealthy. Just don't choose one that doesn't make you wealthy. And so here's how if you're listening to me and you're like, okay, you're saying the vehicle doesn't really matter, tie it to my vision. Well, then it doesn't really matter what I do. It's true, but make sure the vehicle that you do choose, you do have a model or a mentor who's accomplished the level of success that you want to accomplish, right? And that's why I got out of buying duplexes, because I've never seen anyone become a billionaire buying duplexes, right? Doesn't happen. I've seen a lot of people become billionaires buying apartment buildings. And so, again, I just was like, okay, could I get to where I wanted to get to buying duplexes? No, I couldn't, because I didn't see, there was no way. I mean, unless you're BlackRock and you're buying, you know what I mean? Like, you're not really buying duplexes at the time. You're kind of buying like communities. So I do think in terms of vehicle, it's important in that regard that you do have a model or a mentor who's used that vehicle to achieve the type of success or outcome that you want. And that really is the only qualifier about a vehicle I think that's important.
That's a great point. I like that a lot. So where can people find your podcast? Can you give us the name of your podcast, where they can find it?
Yeah, well, I think for this audience, I got a couple. I got two, actually. The Future of Real Estate is actually a new show, man, that we just started. It's called the Future Real Estate Podcast. But if people just go search me on YouTube, since you have a YouTube channel, maybe here, just type in my name, Ellis Hammond, and we put everything there. So if you go to my YouTube channel, Ellis Hammond, you'll find me, and we put all of our stuff there. So that's probably the best place to go in terms of our content.
Okay, great. That's so awesome. Let's kind of wrap this up, because I don't want to take all day here, because this has been a great conversation. I kind of feel like, I think these interviews do wonders for me too. That's also, I like to interview people because it's kind of a selfish thing, but I know I'm asking good questions.
Yeah, 100%.
That people want to know. And I try to ask questions that maybe not everybody would ask. Everybody asks, like, how'd you get started, this and that and that. I like to, like, when I get a new person on, and it's like you really assessing, like, okay, how does a person do this so quickly? What real estate's the most important? Obviously, it's between the ears, right? The mind. What do you do on a daily basis to kind of keep you in check and growing? Like any performance behaviors, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I used to get up early, and then I had a kid, and so now it's just like whenever I can pull myself out of bed, or like, there's just a lot changes, man. I would say the things that keep me motivated and growing is having, I read a lot. I like reading about people's journeys, reading the book by Sam Sells or Sam Zell's. Sam, I think is Sam Zell's. Anyways, What It Takes by Stephen Schwarzman. I like, when I was in ministry, I like reading autobiographies or biographies of missionaries. And now I'm a real estate entrepreneur. I like reading biographies and autobiographies of entrepreneurs. And because it's motivating and I can see what's possible. If these guys could do it from scratch, why can't I? So that's been huge. Being part of masterminds and, mentorships and paying. I mean, dude, I spent 6 figures last year and just showing up places, being part of masterminds, going to events. 6 figures. It's a lot of freaking money. That's more than, that's a lot. That's an investment. I could have invested that in real estate. I invested that into myself because I just don't know what I don't know. And I want to be around people who are thinking bigger and accomplishing bigger things. And so that has been a huge accelerator for me of just being in environments or being in rooms with people who are ultra successful and who are already achieved the outcomes that I want for my life and figuring out how to shortcut that. So I'm okay to trade money for that because I'd rather spend the money now instead of spend 40 years to learn it. So those are key, man. Reading books, being in masterminds, paying for mentorships have been accelerators for me.
Awesome. That's true. I just read or listened to the book. I always talk about it. Who, not how. That's a great one.
Yeah, I got that on my shelf right there. I just read that 100%.
Yep. Yeah. And that's exactly what you were just saying. You get the who, the top-notch mentor, you pay for it. And it's so true. It's like, how can you shortcut the process? Now, in your mastermind groups, are you helping beginning investors as well as there's probably people that want to invest passively? You kind of teach them this is what to look for in a passive investment. Yeah,
our mastermind and coach. So we have mastermind and coaching. It's not for the passive investor. It's really just for those who want to be active, and that's our Kingdom REI platform. And it is kind of niche in that it's faith based, and so people who really value that, but also want to be in real estate more actively. So that's our mastermind. We do have a coaching platform for that under Kingdom REI, but it's really just for active. If you're a passive investor, then that's our company, Symphony Capital Group, where we essentially do it for you, right? So it's kind of separate. Kingdom REI really is just it's our entrepreneur community, and that's what we have. But if you're interested, people are invested in or want to learn more about investing passively. I mean, I put out tons of content there. Just follow me somewhere, LinkedIn, YouTube. I don't know, dude. I put it out everywhere. Go to YouTube. And our company, symphonycapitalgroup.com is where you can learn about those opportunities.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure getting to meet you here for the last 30 minutes, and look forward to networking with you in the future. And jealous that you're in San Diego, because I always tell people I used to live in the Bay Area, but I said if I ever move back to California, I'm living in San Diego, because that's.
Well, you're not far, man. You're not far. You just make it happen.
I know. My wife. I keep on telling my wife. She moved here from Mexico a little over 2 years ago, and she hasn't been to San Diego yet. I'm like, and then COVID happened, and so I'm like, honey, we gotta go to San Diego. It's my favorite place to hang out. So I hope to go there soon. Sure. Anyways, thanks so much. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Appreciate you guys joining us, and thank you, Ellis. Appreciate you.
Absolutely.